Causal knowledge enables us to predict and control our environment. But we don't have a causality sense. We can't hear, smell, see, feel, or taste causality. Instead, we have to infer it from observable evidence, such as temporal contiguity. Events that occur close together in time are more likely to be judged as causally related, especially by children. Interestingly, for adults, the relationship between time and causality is bidirectional. Temporal contiguity between A and B leads us to believe that A caused B. And once we know that A causes B, we also perceive the gap between them to be smaller than between two unrelated events. This is known as temporal binding. The outcome is drawn closer to its cause. The two events are bound together. Earlier research has claimed that temporal binding only occurs in adults after sufficient experience with causal relationships over the course of development. We believe that this prior research used tasks that were too difficult for children, and so we used a more playful paradigm to investigate binding in 4 to 11-year-olds. The children in the experiment were told a story based around rockets being launched with astronauts on board. We found that children expected a rocket launch earlier when they had caused it by pressing a button, compared to when there was no such causal link and the rocket launched automatically. This is the first demonstration of temporal binding in children. Earlier research also suggested that temporal binding occurs because of a special linkage between intentional actions and their sensory consequences, and that the effect is rooted in aspects of human motor learning. Our theory that temporal binding is rooted in causality is more general than that. Intentional actions are just one type of cause, but there can be other, non-intentional causes as well. Our second experiment introduced a machine to press the launch button. We still found evidence for temporal binding, despite the absence of human and indeed intentional action, thus indicating that the effect really is driven by causal understanding, and that prior intentional action is not necessary. Having demonstrated temporal binding in young children suggests that the bidirectional relation between time and causality develops early. It may well be a useful heuristic that helps young children to learn about the causal relations in their environment in a rapid and effective manner.